I should start by saying that most people I pick up are overwhelmingly normal. A few drunk guys, some college students too tired to walk, young adults off to another bar or club, but every now and again I find myself driving around with some real oddities. I guess you could say that's a product of big city, but I shudder to imagine this could be normal anywhere else. I'm not going to tell you where the big city is, just know it's a big city with lots of people. Here, this first guy will be a good example. It was a normal night around 11 p.m. or so when I spot a guy on the sidewalk waving me down. He's dressed in a formal-looking suit with slick back hair and an expensive-looking watch on his wrist. Definitely not the usual attire of someone who needs a taxi, but I'm not in the business of making judgments. "Hey, how are you?" "It's been a pleasant evening so far, and you?" he said while ducking into the back seat. "I can't complain. Where are you headed?" "I'll be staying at the Grand Yacht Inn this evening, sir. I'd be delighted if you would take me there," he said with a smile full of grandeur. "You got it." I flipped off my taxi light and started the tally. I didn't need directions as this was a very popular destination around here. "That's a nice looking suit," I said. "You have a sharp eye there, Mr. Call me Driver." "Huh. All right, Mr. Driver. You'd be correct. This is a nice suit. And someone with a keen eye like yours might have also asked why a man such as myself would be taking a taxi when he clearly has the stature of a man who owns his own personal car and driver," he exclaimed. His arrogance kind of pissed me off, but after 13 years of driving this taxi, one thing I've learned is how to stomach anger. "It's because I'm an inventor, dear driver. And though my driving personnel are reliable wheelmen, they're shitty confidants. I must keep my invention away from those in positions to steal it," he continued. "Ah, gotcha. So you must have invented something pretty great, huh?" I asked. A smirk grows on his face. He ducks down behind my seat and pulls out a small black box, then puts on a black glove. He flips open the lid and turns it around, revealing what looked to be a small metal ball bearing. "You invented a ball bearing? Hate to break it to you, but that's already been invented." He scoffed dramatically before picking it up and holding it close to my head. "This here, well, to put it extremely primitively, this is an amalgamation of rare earth elements with very unique reactionary tendencies to almost all physical objects," he said. Then he flipped the ball into the air and caught it in his palm. "If I were to drop this ball right here in your car, it would eat straight through the floor in seconds, then pass through the pavement and into the crust of the earth. Not even the earth's core would be able to stop it. Not until it hit the center of gravity, where it would remain forever. The only reason I can handle it now is because I've put on my control glove, along with my container. They're made of another rare earth element, resistant to this ball's properties. So rare, in fact, there isn't enough of it left on Earth to make a second glove," he said. "Hey man, I'm not sure I understand, but please don't toss that thing around in my car while I'm driving." He frowned at me, like he was dissatisfied with my response. He puts the small metal ball back into its box. "I don't think you appreciate the greatness of this invention, Mr. Driver. Something like this could revolutionize industries all over the world. This one object alone breaks multiple laws of thermodynamics as we know it. The creation of this object could mean that the laws of nature so sternly placed by God himself could be bent to my will." All right, I get it. Just calm down there, friend. I didn't mean to insult your invention." He takes a deep breath and seems to relax a bit. "Apologies, Mr. Driver. I didn't mean to become excitable. But to satiate your concerns, you should be aware that I will not drop this invention. I could not be so crass." "It's fine. We'll be arriving at your destination here shortly." "Excellent. But I must insist of you, Mr. Driver, do not tell anyone about this. I trust that this will suffice for keeping your silence," he said. He hands me a fancy clip of cash. All hundreds. "Yes, sir, that will do nicely. And if any of your other rich friends need a ride, let me know. I'd be glad to take them," I said. He laughed as he stepped out of my cab. I promised one last time I wouldn't say a thing, and he walks into the hotel lobby. Now I know what you must be thinking. Clearly, I did not keep his promise based on the fact you're reading this right now. But as you're about to read, it doesn't really matter. About 2 days after I dropped him off, there was a headline in the local newspaper about a mysterious murder in the Grand Yacht Hotel. A man with no ID and a fancy suit was found shot in his hotel room bed. The The door was locked from the inside, and no casings could be found. The bullet managed to pass through the floor of his room, and the police can't find it. My guess is he was ogling his invention and accidentally dropped it on himself. I felt bad for him, honestly. His invention absolutely worked. One little mistake was all it took to destroy both the invention and the inventor in one fell swoop. That ball is probably on its way to the core of the Earth by now. I just hope it doesn't do anything disastrous when it gets there. Not every encounter ends up being so whimsical, though. Not that his death was anything funny, but you can't say he didn't have it coming throwing that thing around like that. The next story I want to share was far darker. I still think about it late at night. Sometimes I like to take unusual roads around the town when it's been a slow night. It's risky, sure, since it's not the nicest side of town, but I've built up a sort of small reputation around here as the cabbie who doesn't ask questions, and drug dealers tip big for silence. Doesn't make me feel great, but it puts food on the table, and I have a daughter to put through college someday. So there I was. This girl stepped out in front of my car out of nowhere. She was in her late 20s, had straight brown hair and fair skin. Definitely not the type of girl who should be slumming it up with prostitutes and crackheads, which is why my heart sank when I saw how torn up and bloody her clothes were. This was the scenario I dreaded the most when coming down this way. Honestly, I'd rather be shot and robbed than have to look into the eyes of some young girl whose life is now ruined. It breaks my dad heart. She just stood there crying in front of my car, so I ushered her into the back of my cab and just started driving on instinct to the hospital. "Thank you. Thank you so much for stopping," she said, barely keeping it together. "What happened? Are you okay?" I said. She lifted her knees to her chest and hugged them. "I was at the bar and then I don't know. I don't remember anything, but my head hurts and I woke up in the alley and she said. She just broke down, dribbling and crying into her knees. It's okay. You're safe now, all right? I'm gonna take you to the hospital and get you checked out, okay?" I said. She looked up from her lap and just nodded slightly. "What's your name?" I said. "Emily." "Okay, Emily, do you know who did this to you?" No, I don't know anything. I can't remember anything," she screamed. "Hey, it's okay. Don't focus on that now, all right? Was anyone around you when you woke up, or were you alone?" "No one was there. I was just laying there in the alleyway and... I felt my heartbeat in my temples. I was just so mad. I swear whoever did this to her probably felt a shiver. "It's all right. You're safe now. I won't let anyone hurt you. Just hang in there. We're about 10 minutes away from the hospital." "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't..." She just suddenly stopped. She just stopped crying instantly, put both her legs back down on the floor of the car, and carefully placed her hands in her lap. "I'm okay now. There's no need to take me to the hospital," she said in a perfectly calm voice. "What?" I said. "I'm perfectly okay. I was just overreacting to a minor situation. Instead, I would like you to deliver me to this address," she said, handing me a small piece of paper. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. This girl had completely changed her entire demeanor in an instant. I really didn't know what to say, but I definitely wasn't taking her to that address. "I must return to my home. Please take me there at once. You will be paid handsomely for this service," she said. "Look, this trip is going to be free of charge, okay? Just let me take you to the hospital to at least have them check you out. I want to make sure you're not hurt, all right?" I said. "I demand to be dropped off at this address. You're a cab driver, are you not? You take people to where they want to go," she said. "What the hell is the matter with you? Snap out of it," I said. "You will drop me off at this address, or I will contact the police and report you for theft," she said. "I am not taking you anywhere but the hospital, lady, and if that means you're going to call the cops on me, then so be it." "Fine. If you will not take me home, I will walk there myself," she said. Then she opened the car door while I was driving on the freeway and just stepped out. I was going fast, too, over the speed limit. The sound it made when she was sucked out of the back of my cab still wakes me up at night sometimes. She was killed instantly, which, for all I know, could have been a mercy. The ambulance had to practically scrape what was left of her off the road. I got brought in for questioning by the police, but the interior camera I installed cleared me of any wrongdoing. For the most part, it seemed like they just felt bad for me, so I didn't have to spend much time there. The cops ended up going to the address she gave me and found nothing but an empty parking lot. Other than that, I haven't heard anything about the situation since. I was pretty destroyed by the whole thing. One thing she said stuck out to me as particularly odd though. When she mentioned calling the cops, she said she was going to report me for theft, not kidnapping. I don't know what could have happened to her before I found her, but I'm glad I never took her to that address. I went home from the police station that night, hugged my daughter, and cried a bit. I try not to bring home the crazy shit I see at work, but that one just hit too close to heart. That interior camera is a lifesaver, by the way. It's actually how I've been able to recreate the conversation so well thus far. I know what you're gonna say. Don't ask, because I'm not gonna show you any of the footage. It has my face and car interior on it, and I don't want you to see that. I've already said some shit that might get me fired, and I won't take that risk. In this last story, I'm gonna tell you that interior camera probably saved my life. I'll let the story speak for itself, but perhaps this can serve as an example to all you cabbies out there. Get yourself some video evidence. It was a pretty slow day for the most part. When it gets rainy, a lot of people just stay where they're at, and don't need a cab. This one old fellow waved me down from the underside of an apartment awning, so I stopped to pick him up. He looked to be in his 70s, 80s. He walked slow, so I helped him into the back seat. He thanked me with a really sweet smile and told me he wanted to go to the big city bridge. So off we went. "It's a beautiful weather for a walk, don't you think?" he said. "I can't say I agree, old-timer. I'm more of a summer guy myself. The cold fall weather just chills me to the bone," I said. "Bah, it's the cold that really makes you feel alive," he said. We talked about weather and other trivial things until we made it to the bridge. Not a thing was odd about him. Just a friendly old man. He paid his fee, tipped his hat, and slowly walked off towards the bridge. That was the last time I ever saw him. When I stopped at the bridge, another person ran up to the side of my cab and asked for a ride, so I let him in. He was a younger guy, maybe 20s, in good shape, and was meeting up with his girlfriend for lunch at a popular restaurant around here. I started a new tally and off we went. About 5 minutes after we left the bridge, the kid in the back lifts something up into his hand. "What's this?" he said. "Don't know. Looks like some kind of little statue. Where'd you find it?" I asked. "It was here under the edge of your seat." "Aw, man. I think that old guy must have left this in your cab. We should turn back. We might still catch him," he said. I let out a big sigh. "You're probably right. Don't worry, kid. I won't add this to your tally. We'll find him." With that, I turned the cab around and started heading back the way we came. "This thing's weird. Kinda old and creepy. Maybe it's some family heirloom or something?" he said. "Just don't break it, all right. Who knows what's valuable these days?" I said. I won't. There's this weird inscription on the side of it. It says..." Now, I'd try and describe what he said next, but I really don't have any idea. It was pretty much gibberish. I ran it through a few language detection sites, and all of them came up empty. He also stammered through the whole thing, which I guess makes sense when you're reading a nonsensical language. After reading the whole thing, he gets this weird look on his face, then he just started screaming. "Get out of my head! Get out of my head! Get out of my head!" He screamed and then just went limp. I slammed on the brakes and turned to face him. "Jesus, kid, what the fuck? Hey, are you okay?" He sits up, looks me dead in the eyes, and gives me a huge, sinister grin. "Oh, I'm more than all right, friend, but no more questions, all right? You will now drive me silently to a nice lot in Middleton Street, yes?" he said. Then he makes some kind of hand motion and I get completely silent. I face the road with an empty look on my face and just drove. "That's better. Don't worry, I have no plans to kill you now. I mean, I'm still in the car, right?" he said. He motions his hand again, and like a puppet on a string, I laugh like a mindless henchman. It's here I should mention that I have absolutely no memory of any of this. It would have been a totally normal day to the best of my memories if I hadn't viewed the footage. My, this body is a real good one. Thank you, taxi driver, for finding me such a suitable replacement. That old body was starting to turn to dust, I say. A truly horrid behavior of normal people, might I add, he said. "Yes, master," I said in a voice that sounded nothing like my own. "Good boy, now drop me off right about here." "This should do nicely," he said. I park the car on the side of the road and we both step out. From here I can't see what's going on, but you can still hear him chatting away. "Fantastic work! Now, I want you to forget everything about this little outing we had today. Not one bit of it will remain in your memories. Furthermore, in 3 days while you're driving your taxi, I want you to drive directly into the big city river and don't come back out. Understand?" he said. "Yes, master," I said. "Delightful. I'll be on my way now. Au revoir," he said. After that, I got back into my taxi and I just drove off. From there, I can remember things that happened for the rest of the day while being completely oblivious to anything being wrong. About midway through the second day since this had happened, the police contacted me about a missing person they were looking for. An old man named Mike Cole. He was last seen exiting his apartment and getting into my cab, and the police wanted to know where he went from there. I let them view my interior camera footage, and they were satisfied after seeing Mr. Cole exit my cab on the big city bridge. I, however, was far more interested in the fact I didn't remember him at all, or the guy who got into my cab next. So I watched the rest of the footage and figured it all out. I stayed home on the third day. Never got behind the wheel once, and honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I needed this job to live, I probably would have stayed out of cars forever. After driving my cab a few times on the days after my death date, I'm satisfied in saying I'm probably not going to mindlessly drive into the big city river. But I still avoid driving near it when I can, just in case. Mike Cole was found, by the way. About 2 days after the police saw my footage, they were dragging his body out of the river. I hope he didn't remember any of it, not the brainwashing or the life he missed out on. I don't want to imagine him finally regaining control over his mind just to witness his own death. That would be too sad. That's all the stories I have for you now. Not that I don't have more, it's just that writing all of this out really brought back a lot of trauma I thought I'd packed away deep inside of me. Regardless of all that, I'll continue driving my cab. I don't think I can do anything else really, that's what I'm good at. My daughter is turning 16 in a few months, and I absolutely have to make enough cash to send her somewhere better than this. I've seen some pretty horrible things living in this city, and even worse things driving in it every day, so I know better than anyone else how much of a hellhole it is. I will give her a better life, even if it means I never sleep another peaceful night again.